Hey everybody, welcome to the No Tomatoes podcast. I'll be your host Titus today, and I'm joined by my brother Elijah, as always.
How's it going, everybody?
How are you doing, Eli? How's your week been?
It's been pretty good. Just, doing things that I could be doing, like between jobs, like DoorDash and stuff. But
Yeah, I heard you came from a DoorDash job right before we started recording.
yep, I did. I had one order that was at an apartment, and they gave me absolutely no instruction as to where to go. And I
Nice.
absolutely hate it when that happens. One time, I just gave up and took the food home. But
You're just
yeah,
like, yeah, okay,
yeah, it
nice.
was just
Have you ever had anything really weird happen with DoorDash yet?
really weird. Like how?
Like, have you had any like sketchy jobs? Or
Uh, I wouldn't say sketchy, and like I mean the worst one because I was really new at doing it was I drove 30 minutes from Midland to Essexville, which is like almost a Bay City if you know Michigan at all, and that's like way out of the way because it was like midnight and I was taking a Wendy's order that I had to pay for with the red card thing, which is actually pretty rare now. Most restaurants just like people prepay, you know.
yeah.
Um, so it was just like drive all the way here, do this order, and then no one else was ordering anything, so I had to drive all the way back, and it was just like not worth taking that order. So now I don't take any orders outside of the city I'm currently in.
Right.
But how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I came home from my fiance's house. It's a bit of a trek back and forth. I mean, we make it work, but it's about a 15-minute drive back and forth. So,
Mm,
when we're trying to hang out, it's usually like a all day event that happens.
yeah,
Um,
I know how that goes.
yeah, it's tough being in a longer distance relationship. I wouldn't go as far as to say it's a long distance relationship. I mean, we're not in different states, but
Right.
it, anything past 15 minutes away gets a little tough.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say like 30 minutes away is the maximum you can go before it's like medium distance relationship.
Yeah, where you're like, okay, this is taking a minute.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like I've never been in a relationship like dating that wasn't longer than an hour drive or shorter than an hour drive to go see that other person.
right. Yeah. I mean,
Um,
my first relationship. I was in probably a 15-minute drive, and I got to say, I took that for advantage.
yeah,
Uh, because now that I'm about an hour away, it's like, oh boy, like it's more of a time commitment to say, all right, I want to go to my fiance's house rather than you know. Anyway, it's not terrible, but it sometimes it gets to you.
yeah, for sure. There was a professor I had. I guess I guess he was a professor. He taught. He was like the main guy at what do you call it? Grace Christian University worship team. So
Okay.
he led all the worship teams, and he said his fiance. He's from Brazil, so his fiance essentially lived in Brazil the entire time he was at school, and they stayed together that like whole time until he graduated, and she got her like she would legally became a citizen after he did, and it was just like wow, that's a real long time, real long distance. But
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
so respect,
But
but
yeah, for sure. Um, but yeah, so I think it's time to jump in the main section of the podcast.
all right, it
And
sounds good to me.
all right, cool.
Craft. That's some pretty complicated stuff to play. You don't have respective hands?
I do?
You absolute trap. Having a good time. Like, just enjoying myself.
He was like so
Just so
supportive.
fun.
The song sucks.
Yep, that's true.
All right, cool.
Yeah, so what are we talking about today?
So we're talking about music production, and you, from what I understand, have just graduated with a bachelor's in music production.
Actually, my bachelor's isn't in music production. It's in music, worship, and technology with a focus in music. My associate's degree was in music technology. So,
Okay.
I mean,
So that's the official title,
yeah, it's a very long
right?
title. It used to just be worship arts, but then they decided,
Okay.
hey, we're going to make all the titles longer. We went from Grace Bible College, we're going to go to Grace Christian University, and now our worship arts program is going to turn into the music, worship, and technology program. So
Okay.
it's
So the
better.
technology is where it comes, like, music producing and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
So
the
it's
producing.
very actually very few classes different between the three.
Mm.
From at least from what I did, because I came in with an associate's degree, so I had already done a lot of the technology classes. So I didn't
Okay.
take many tech classes. The one thing I really missed though was video, because I never did video.
Right.
Even at
So you
Mott.
never did the necessarily the media arts
Right.
portion of
Yeah,
it.
I never did that.
I took one class in media arts. I actually really enjoyed it, but sadly I never pursued it so much. But
Right.
yeah. Anyway, so I wanted to ask you, what are some of the most common misconceptions about starting in music production? Like maybe that it's easy to get into or something like that. I don't know.
Common misconceptions. I guess I don't know. Common misconceptions is the right way to categorize this. It's just a general misunderstanding
Sure.
that a lot of people have going into audio production, and it's that you can record music basically onto your phone and then have it all on one track and then send it to someone and have them make it sound good.
Right.
That is impossible. And, I haven't had anyone personally do this to me, luckily, but I've heard horror stories of like rap artists that have a beat and they'll record vocals to it and then they'll send the audio guy, the mixing engineer, one file because that's all they have saved. And you can't mix the vocals out of the other music because it's all together in one thing. You can't isolate it unless it's on separate tracks, So that's
Right.
one
So
thing that's that you can't do. So if any of you guys didn't know that, now you do. So don't try to do
don't
that.
record everything on your phone. Get some sort of music
Yeah.
program.
First of all, the first mistake was assuming that it would sound good on your phone.
Right.
I mean, eventually, I'm sure technology is going to catch up and it's going to actually be fairly decent. But as it is now, that's just really not a good idea.
Right. For sure. Okay. What's the most irritating job you've had to do in terms of audio? Because I know I've done a little bit of audio work, and a lot of the stuff that I've done has been mostly with people that think they know how to do audio.
Yeah.
Because I don't personally really know how to do it, but I've learned a little bit from you.
Mm-hmm.
So when people think they know audio and they know, it's irritating to me, but that was my experience with it.
So what was the question again? Rephrase it.
What's the most irritating type of job you've had to do in audio?
I think running sound for churches, they expect microphones to do more work than they physically can. So like the distance between your microphone and the sound source has to be, within a certain range, or else when you turn the gain up to get that instrument and you have sound coming from your speaker system, your main speakers, essentially, you'll get tons of feedback because your microphone is picking up all of the stuff that's coming out of the speakers, and that is going back into your system, back out of the speakers, back into your microphone, back into the system, back out of the speakers. So it creates this feedback loop,
Right.
that a lot of people know and hate.
It's a
And
high
everyone goes,
squealing.
why are you breaking my ears? Well, because I'm trying to make you sound like you aren't like
20
in
feet
the
away from the
background.
microphone.
Yeah, 20 feet away from the
I'm
microphone
trying to
like
make
you
it
are.
sound like you're not playing in a wind tunnel.
Right, yes. I'm trying to actually like amplify your sound, but I can't because you're so far away.
Right.
Yeah. So that's one pet peeve I've had. I don't know any irritating jobs in particular. It's just
Okay.
what people expect that you can do, but you really can't.
People expect you to be a wizard.
Yeah, be a
and
wizard.
you're like,
Yeah.
I can't make the microphone do that.
Right. Right. Yeah. I can't physically. It's physically impossible.
If you don't sing good, the microphone not gonna make you sing good.
Right. That's true. I can't make it sound like good music if it's bad music.
Right. For sure.
I can make good music sound better. And I can make bad music sound, like
decent.
polished bad music.
Polished bad music.
A polished turd,
Don't worry. It might still be a turd.
But it's polished. It's a good looking turd, man.
Anyway. Would you consider yourself an audiophile?
Yes. I
Yes.
would. I have a lot of opinions about certain audio trends that have been happening. I'm by no means an audio expert. I have an associate's degree, so I know a little bit of what I'm talking about. And I've, continued to learn things through my bachelor's program, though my degree was not focused on that.
Sure.
But it's a passion of mine, and I would consider myself an audiophile. And I guess where do I start with this? Bluetooth sucks.
I've heard this one before.
Yeah, Bluetooth, it degrades the quality significantly. It's very convenient, and I do listen to music on Bluetooth headphones occasionally. But I would not say that any Bluetooth headphone or Bluetooth speaker is the way you should be generally consuming the music you listen to. Honestly, car stereos aren't the best, but they're better than Bluetooth if you're just plugging in your aux cord or something like that. The best way to listen to music is with a CD. Many people will argue and say vinyl.
I was gonna ask that, so you wouldn't say vinyl, huh?
They're wrong. And the reason being is just because it's a monophonic signal. So it's automatically not mixed in stereo now. That's not the only reason. That's one reason. A second reason, most recordings are recorded digitally anyways. All right. So you're recording everything into a computer. It's turning into zeros and ones. It's getting put out through a processing sequence, and it's getting put out through your speakers. And it's become so good that we can't make it sound better to us, like physically. It's not audible even to the most avid of audiophiles. Like, so you've got 16-bit 44.1 kilohertz is CD quality.
Okay.
And then you can record all the way up to like 32 or 64-bit now, which is insane, because 16-bit is basically the difference between an MP3 and a CD quality. Normal people usually don't hear. I hear it really easily if I've heard the music before in both formats. It's easy, especially if it's before and after comparison, to hear the difference
So
between MP3 and a CD quality WAV file or something like that.
so it'd be kind of like comparing movies. Movies are captured in 24 frames per second, to put it in the terms of your eyes rather than your ears.
Right.
Movies are recorded in 24 frames per second, and I think it was The Hobbit first cut edition was actually recorded at 60 frames per second, but then it was reverted back to 24 frames because people thought it looked weird.
Yeah.
So it almost looked too good to people.
Right. I wouldn't say that audio looks too or sounds too good to people. It's just you can't hear the difference.
Okay, so there's just no
at a
difference
certain point, like it's usually the 24-bit range, if not the 16-bit range. Some people say they can hear the difference between 16 and 24-bit. I can't, but I can definitely hear the difference between 16-bit, 44.1 kilohertz, and MP3 compression.
Okay.
You know, a musician or an audiophile that's heard those terms, that's heard like them side to side. Oh yeah, I can definitely hear the difference. Some people still say they can't. I definitely can. There's just, you know, nuances in the audio you can hear through CD quality better. So back to vinyl, you're taking a digital signal, you're converting it to vinyl. So it's literally just you're taking, and what vinyl does is it makes the mid-range usually louder because you can't have too much bass or else the record won't play correctly. It'll have issues. So it's mastered differently, essentially.
So to make this more digestible, I guess, in terms of vinyl, where most artists record everything digitally now, right? Anyway.
Yes, right.
So what ends up happening is people record it digitally, then they convert it back to vinyl.
Right.
So it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. You're getting the same product in the end, and you're actually taking, you're getting less information with the vinyl record.
Okay.
You're able to hear less of it. It's colored differently.
Sure. Say you recorded everything analog, meaning live instruments, live everything. Would it sound better in vinyl?
That is when vinyl actually matters, right?
Okay.
Tape or vinyl, really, because people forget about tape, but tape is also a similar quality to vinyl,
Gotcha.
if it's recorded analog.
So it basically, if the industry today wasn't the industry today, it would matter.
Right.
But since
I mean, some very rarely, but some people actually do record on all analog gear and then press it to vinyl. And I would say, yeah, definitely, that's definitely worth purchasing a vinyl of that because you would hear how the artist intended it to be listened to.
Gotcha.
But most of the time, artists are recording so that people can listen to it, you know, the way they hear it in the studio, which is how they want to have it put on the CD, not the vinyl.
Okay.
Yeah. That's not to say vinyl sounds bad. I just would prefer CD quality because it's the original form.
It's the intended form.
Yeah, it's the intended form, or at least the original form. You have more information there, but.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. What sound programs would you recommend for beginning sound designers?
I recommend trying out a bunch of different stuff. Learning the basic terms helps you a lot. Transitioning between they call them digital audio workstations or DAWs. FL Studio is what I started on. And that's really not... it didn't start out as a professional digital audio workstation. But it became more professional, and people are actually advocating for it more now in the professional scene. But I wouldn't say that I would use FL Studio anymore unless I was making a dubstep beat or something.
Okay.
It's just a good sequencer for MIDI. It doesn't do recording very well, in my opinion, and it doesn't have super good effects. I haven't used it in a long time, but you can check it out if you're into doing hip hop or EDM or something. It's worth checking
Yeah.
out. Other programs out there. I'm sorry, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say, would you recommend anything different from beginner to experienced sound designer, or would they all be the same as just like figure out what you like type of thing?
Yeah, it's definitely a personal preference.
Gotcha.
If you're going to work in Nashville, let's say you want to go to Nashville, you want to be a sound engineer, you need to know Pro Tools, as it is. That's what people say, and that's what I've heard, and that's what I believe. However, I've never used Pro Tools outside of school because I've never worked as an official audio engineer for a company. I've always been I offer my services to businesses, and the businesses pay me for those services. So it's like an independent contractor kind of thing. So unless you're working with other audio engineers, it doesn't matter which audio software you use, as long as you're producing quality work. So to sum up, what would I recommend for beginners? I would recommend using whatever you have access to. If you have access to Pro Tools and you're looking to get hired somewhere, go for it. It's honestly not as daunting as people think. It's just quirky. And those quirks have been there because they've always been there, and they didn't want to remove them because the professionals use it and they're used to those quirks. So Pro Tools is worth learning if you're going to work in that capacity. Logic Pro is the most accessible and the most it's the most professional for the least amount of money, I should say, if you're using a Mac computer.
Gotcha.
It does everything that Pro Tools can do from what I've seen. And whether or not you're using Pro Tools or Logic, you're still going to use third-party plugins from other professional developers. So you've got Pro Tools, you've got Logic Pro. If you don't have any money, you just start messing around in Audacity or FL Studio demo version. GarageBand also works. That'll actually give you a stepping stool to get into Logic. That's what a lot of people have done, and it actually works really well because the shortcuts are the same, essentially.
Right.
There's other ones. There's like Adobe Acid, and I wouldn't recommend that one. I've tried it. It's just
probably a bad idea.
Yeah, don't do Acid, guys. I don't know. I'm trying to think of other ones. There's Studio One. A lot of people like that. I tried it a little bit. I don't have any problems with it. So yeah, just like whatever software you have access to, just start learning on that, and yeah, learn the common terms of the industry. Learn the basics, like audio gain is super important. It's starting to get. I've seen new stuff come out that's like it auto gains. It sets the gain for you, which is kind of cool. It also cool. Makes me afraid because that's 50% of why people hire me is because they just don't know how to set gain properly. Because basically gain is the knob you turn to set how loud your microphone is before it gets to the fader. And if that's turned up too loud, you're going to get...
It gives dirty signal.
Yeah, you're going to get clipping is what it's technically called. But yeah, dirty signal is another way to put it. So if you're having that problem, you know how to fix it now. Just turn the gain down.
Yeah. Turn the knob down. Don't
basically to set gain, if you've got a meter, you want to have it at like -8 to -12-ish, depending on what you're doing, or how much dynamic range the sound source has. So if you're singing and you sing super quiet like this, and then you get super loud, you'll want to have enough headroom between those two. So that's why when I set gain, I ask people to sing as loud as they're going to sing before it gets to clipping. And I set it as close to clipping as possible, basically, with a little bit of headroom at their loudest point.
Cool.
But, yeah. I kind of went on a rant there, but...
Do what you want with the audio stuff and learn the terms.
Gain, basic effects like reverb, delay, compression. Compression's really important. People starting out, you really need to get compression down. That's the hardest one. But once you get it, you know it, and it makes your life so much easier.
For sure. Next question. SoundCloud rappers.
They exist. Yeah.
They
inevitably exist, and I don't know what to do with that.
Well, I guess a better question in the vein of that is, do you think talent often comes out of SoundCloud, or do you think people just make a big deal out of it for no reason?
I haven't. I'm not in that scene anymore. I started out on SoundCloud just because it was free. But honestly, yeah, if you're good enough, like the band No Tomatoes we have, starting out, really, we were making back the same amount of money we were putting into the band right off the bat. And that's just because we already had an album essentially readied up before we signed up for DistroKid is the distribution service we use. But we pay a yearly fee to keep it up there, and the band makes more than that yearly fee on streaming revenue. So I don't see any reason for using SoundCloud anymore. If you're remotely ready to start distributing music professionally. It's a really good platform if you're just putting out demos, or if you just want to save some audio files somewhere and just like, hey, man, listen to this. What do you think? I still use it for that. I know Adam still tries to do things on SoundCloud, and he gets some web traffic from that, and that's pretty cool. But I'd prefer to keep it more professional, just personally.
Okay. Cool. So if you had to condense that long audio file section or music producer section into a couple sentences, if you had one piece of advice for newbies, what would it be?
The audio file section?
More of the music producing section.
The producing
like
section.
What would you say is the most important to know when you're just getting into music production?
Something that's something I didn't talk about before was mic placement. Mic placement is the number one way to get better audio. Even if you've got a crappy mic, if you know how to use it, you can usually get a pretty decent audio quality.
Make that 2 inches work for you, boy.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same concept, basically. Yeah. I wouldn't say that the crappiest mic in the world would be better. The crappiest mic in the world placed well, and the best microphone in the world placed extremely horribly are on par with each other. All right? So you got the crappiest mic in the world right here, placed exactly in front of the person, speaking directly into the microphone as they're supposed to. And then you've got the crappiest mic in the world 80 feet that way, facing the wrong direction. Neither of them are going to be good.
You mean the best mic in the world, 80 feet that way?
Right,
But yeah,
right. Best
I get
mic.
what you're saying.
Best mic in the world that
I
way.
get what you're saying, yeah.
Neither of them
sure.
are going to be good. But if you've got a decent microphone like this, I would take a decent microphone placed well over the $4 million microphone that's not even remotely close to what it's recording.
Right.
So it just goes to show how important mic placement is. And there's a textbook that I sometimes use now. It's called what is it called? It's by Bobby Owinski. It's just like basics of recording, and it just gives a bunch of different mic placement techniques. So yeah, mic placement's really important. But if I had to condense it all down into a couple of sentences,
hold on, Eli.
You lose
Phone
video.
just died on me.
Uh-oh.
That's awkward. That's fine. Got it.
Okay.
Alrighty, last question. What are your favorite things to work on, and what makes audio fun to work on?
Favorite things to work on. I like to edit. I like to just do edits, like cuts, and fades, in Logic, just because I feel like a wizard just doing it so fast. Especially like with drums, they have like. Usually when I edit drums, I'll cut up the drums so that the kick drum only hits like a couple milliseconds before it starts, and then all the way till the audio fades out. But then it's just that little snippet, and then it cuts all the silence out. So I don't know. I do stuff like that. That's pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. What was the other question? It was like a
just what makes audio fun to you? Why do you think audio is the profession you chose?
I just like making things sound as good as they can.
Looping back to audiophile.
Yes. What do you mean looping back?
I just mean.
Audiophile.
You could be considered an audiophile.
I thought you meant audiophile like a wave.
No,
or an MP3. No, okay, yeah. Basically, just making things sound as good as they possibly can, both musically and artistically through audio editing. Because there's so much as a musician that you don't understand if you've not done audio that changes the sound drastically. And that's why, as a musician, I got into audio because I'm a control freak. And
gotcha.
I just wanted to have every part of my sound to be uniquely me. So yeah, I just like I like audio because I like music. So
fair. All right, cool. What's your quote?
Yeah, so my quote of the day is something that I heard on a podcast called Side Hustle School. They're just like super short daily episodes that just kind of help you stay in a business mindset. And the quote I heard from there, the guy just says a lot. I don't remember the guy's name, but he says, if you want to have more luck, take more chances. So that's the quote. And then the recommendation, of course, we also have to do one of those. I'd recommend the Side Hustle School podcast, but I'd also recommend, specifically relating to audio, the Six Figure Home Studio podcast. If you want to make any kind of money doing audio, it's a super good resource just to hear what those guys have to say. It's probably like the number one audio podcast. So if you're into audio and you're into podcasts, you've probably heard of it. But nonetheless, I recommend it.
Cool.
But
Well, usually we transition to the end, but we don't have any guests to say goodbye to.
that's true.
So I'd just like to say thank you, everybody, for listening. Get right back into it. And we look forward to seeing you not next Monday, but the Monday after. And hear from us soon.
Yeah. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye, everybody.